I'm Gene Mollica, co-owner of G&S Cover Design Studio.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andrew Dobell, and I'm an author and cover designer. I've been doing covers for quite a few years now, doing everyone from Michael Anderle, Craig Martelle, that kind of thing.
I'm Rebekah Haskell. I own and operate vividcovers.com. I am an illustrator. We mostly do anything under the umbrella of speculative fiction, so sci-fi, fantasy, that sort of thing, urban fantasy. We do a few little thrillers on the side as well. I've been doing it for about 10 years. It's been a lot of fun. I've really, really enjoyed being a part of this community. And man, 20Books is a must-do on my list. So I think this is my fourth year. Fourth?
Yeah, fourth year, yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Stuart Bache. I've been designing covers for almost 20 years. I've worked through trad, so I worked in trad for about 10 years. And for the last 10 years, I've been working almost entirely with indie authors. I've worked with Stephen King, John le Carré, Mark Dawson, and a bunch of other people, so that's me.
I have a feeling Gene wants to revisit his introduction.
That's my partner
like
telling me
here,
I blew it.
Yeah, we've been here as
It's
our
about
fourth
how
year.
every day works. So I've been around a long time. I don't want to talk about the number of years. I've worked with everybody, and I got my start in trade mostly because as a compositor, we were in New York, and so it was loaded with publishers. If it was, I always say if we were in LA, probably would have just chased down movie posters. But when we realized the amount of work that trade was creating in paranormal and fantasy and fiction, I was like, oh my God, you know, when I realized that it was unbelievable, so I just went after it as hard as I could and met a lot of talented people, and we're still going. And then about 2015, when the indie market started to really take hold, it became a consumer product, and that's when Sasha and I formed G&S Cover Design, which was specifically designed to cater to the indie needs. Prior to that, we were working with art directors who were basically shouting instructions over the phone, and then all of a sudden we had to figure out how to package it and sell it to people who were starting businesses. So it made a total revamp of our business so that we could help them with theirs, and we're happy to be here too.
Very happy to be here. Let's start with, what are the first steps you take with your client? Who would love to take this question first? I feel like, Rebekah, that's one for you.
Well, obviously, the first thing that I like to do is I like to talk to them about their novel, because not just their novel, but also what their goals are as a writer. As authors, you are running your own businesses, and it's really important for me to understand what are your goals. Covers are very, very much a marketing decision, and they are synergistic with all of the other choices that you make as a part of your book's marketing strategy. So the best thing for me, in order to give you a cover that's going to do the work you need the cover to do for your book, is to understand more about you as an author, what you're trying to do with your book, what your goals are for your book, who your audience is. And I do get some questions, are you going to read the book?
Yeah.
Generally speaking, I don't read the book, partially because the hourly investment, that would massively change the balance of the ROI there, but also because a cover is very much an impressionistic, high-level view of your book. It's kind of like a blurb in a way. It's a visual blurb is what it is. And sometimes it is more helpful for me as a designer to be able to look at your book from that distance, from that step back, not knowing every tiny character and every subplot and every theme, in order to simplify it down into something that's really going to embody your story and what you're trying to do with it. So the first step is definitely research. Get to know the author, what they're trying to do with their book.
Sure. Stuart, do you want to touch on your process?
Yeah, I'm kind of similar in that respect. I always consider myself as a sales-led designer. So when people offer me manuscripts, I always think, well, a potential reader, potential buyer has no idea what's inside the book. So I like to come at it from that perspective. But in terms of briefing, I like to have quite a clean, simple brief. So I like to ask my clients just for, the salient information, the usual stuff about genre and title and that sort of thing. A short blurb length synopsis, so I don't need to see several pages.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, and I feel that this works as a designer, but also really helps clients, is I ask for comparative covers. Because even though I don't copy them, obviously, but it's a good way of us both being on the same page from the very beginning. So yeah, and that's kind of it, really. That's nice and simple.
Nice. Oh, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, I basically agree with everything they've said. I think we're all pretty much on the same page when it comes to cover design, which is, open a dialogue with the client and find out what they want, and then discuss, brand and trope and genre and all that kind of thing, and try to get on the same page, get what's in their head, and from there you can kind of build outwards and go from there, really.
Yeah. So for the audience here, as a new author, a first-time author, hearing from the different cover designers, you're understanding what we expect from you as an author is you should come to us with that information already. You should be telling us what are some details that maybe set your character or your planet or whatever genre you're writing in, something that sets you apart, and then you give us the go ahead, but we don't need to know down to the tiniest detail, right? So you want to talk about anything, add to that? Like our process, we do have a cover brief that we send out and you fill it out and then we talk about it. But that's what you should do, is have an open communication with your cover designer so that you're on the same page. So you don't have to keep coming back and saying, no, my character has blonde hair. Well, if you don't let us know that in the beginning, how would we know that?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. One of the things we find all the time is that even though you've written a book, when we ask people to define what they want on that cover, they haven't actually defined it in their own minds that closely or that carefully. I don't even. Sometimes I think that they're really looking for us to do that, but until we have that conversation, they haven't even gotten the practice in their minds yet. And some authors will never have that opportunity. But if you're an indie and you do, then that creative brief that they were all describing is a good way to set that up.
Does anyone have any questions on that topic? Really?
How often do you guys have to redirect the author to abandon ship on their idea?
You do it in the you want to nail that early.
I asked, how often do you have to tell authors they need to abandon ship on their cover idea? To change it, to pivot it, not abandon
I see
ship.
Rebekah wants to, and Stuart, I see both.
It depends on the author, obviously, but that's the point of all the conversations we have in the beginning, is I want that to be as early in the process as possible so that there's not a lot of wasted work or there's not a lot of disappointment if you're getting something back from me that you weren't expecting isn't in line with what you were hoping to have. We like to have those conversations early on so that we can point in the direction that is best for your book,
Yeah, so it doesn't happen very often, but I don't ask for an idea. And that's because, with the professionals and with the people with the experience, I think it's nice to understand locations, scenes. I like to know about some scenes and that sort of thing. In terms of an idea for the cover, I think, unless it's a good idea, one thing I do often say is, okay, I will do that, but if I think there's something better or will work better for your sales, then I'll go that direction instead.
That's definitely.
I'm not mean, by the way.
No, he's like, I don't want your idea. It sounded tough, but it's not. I think that's why we're the professionals when it comes to the cover design. We help guide you. So it's really about you giving us your ideas and then trusting us because we're the professional to then bring the cover art to life, bring the cover to life. Please step to the mic.
Is your process different for a series than it is for a standalone?
Gene?
Yeah, well, it is. So that's a great question, actually, because the whole reason why we have a creative process is mostly set up for a series, in that we assume the character look-alike. If we're going to have to execute that 6 times, we want to have a pretty nice process in place to make that happen. If it's a standalone, it's much freer. We'll go through the same creative brief, process, but perhaps the options to get that project done are much more wide. You could use stock, you can use, custom assets, whatever you choose.
Andrew, want to add to that?
Can do.
Or your opinion?
Well, mostly it's done a book at a time anyway. I mean, it's rare for someone to come and go, I've got 10 books, can you recover the whole lot? I mean, it does happen.
Yeah.
But it's usually they'll come to you, right, I'm writing this book, it might be a series, see how it goes. But once you've got that one book and you're then going into a series, it then becomes easier because you've got a dialogue already with the client and you understand what their vision for the series is, and so book 2 and book 3 and so on. It's usually a case of just a little quick conversation and then you're off on the next cover. It just becomes easier.
Yeah, definitely. It's a relationship building process when you're doing a series, for sure. Any questions? Comments? No? Okay. Do you specialize in any genre? Is there a specific genre that you work in? Stuart? Sure.
I guess so. I do a lot of crime and thriller. I have done for a very long time. But I do work in romance, and actually fantasy has been a big thing recently. So contemporary fantasy and that kind of thing has been quite big. So I've been working with Ryan Carhill, who's out in New Zealand, and he's been doing really well. And so since I've been working with him, I've picked up a few more briefs from that sort of thing. So, but yeah, in general, it's crime and thriller.
Rebekah, you specialize in certain genres?
Like I said earlier, mostly anything speculative. So fantasy, sci-fi, urban fantasy. We venture outside that occasionally, but we usually try to stick to things that are more towards our strengths, which are illustrated covers. So most of our covers are illustrated, and there are certain genres in which that's just more common and more appropriate than others.
Again, very similar, genre fiction, sci-fi, fantasy, that kind of thing, mainly. I mean, the most different to that I've done a little small town romance and things like that. So I have done some completely different kind of things.
Is anyone here doing any comfy cozy? Have you done any comfy cozy yet? I have. It's called comfy cozy, right?
Yeah, we're missing our cozy designer.
Yeah, where's our cozy designer? Is anyone here writing in cozy, comfy cozy? You do cozy mystery, Robin. Ah,
Now we're
I
learning.
know. Yeah?
Have you?
Is there always a dog on the cover? I'm just curious. Well, I know Steve, he's like, there has to be a dog.
This series is always a teacup.
A teacup?
Yeah, because they're all set in the same coffee shop. So yeah, or a mug.
Interesting. Okay. Does anyone have any questions so far? Just remember to step to the mic. And how many, this is a good question that people ask a lot when they come up, and especially at the table on Monday, is how many drafts do you offer the client? Anybody willing to take that one?
Go ahead, Stuart.
I'm just going to start at the end and work our way this way.
2. I do 2 initial concepts.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and the reason I do that is because back in the day, in trad, you could do 60, 100 over a year, and the first one would be chosen. So what I tend to do is I go with the first, I just do 2, and adapt and change, and either create new concepts based off the research and the feedback from those first 2. But I always find 2 different concepts is a good way to start.
Mm-hmm.
I only do one. When I was earlier in my career, I would offer more. I think I've gotten better at the conversational part of it first, and the really nailing down the concept that I have a lot of confidence in and that my client has a lot of confidence in. So we do one draft based on that concept. Theoretically, if that concept turned out in a way and the client was like, this is not working, I theorize that we could then try another one. However, that's never happened. So we're doing it right, I guess. But yeah, we do one concept, and then we do a round of revisions from there where they can kind of tweak it, and we can emphasize certain things or change details that they'd like to be changed. But one of the things that I learned, I was in graphic design for years and years before I began doing covers, and one of the things that I learned is, generally speaking, it's not beneficial to the project to give more options. It can feel sometimes more comfortable on the receiving end to like have a lot of things to look at, but rule of thumb as a designer is if you offer someone 3 options, they're gonna pick the worst of the 3. And I'm not gonna set you up for failure. I'm gonna give you the one that I know is the best, you know, so.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do covers, you might need a cover for an ebook, you might need a cover for a print book, you might need jacket. I mean, do you handle all of those options? And so is it just like a pricing thing that here's the package, here's just the ebook, and all that kind of stuff? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I'll create an artwork, and usually I'll work on a full wrap. So when it goes on, eventually goes on a paperback, it will wrap all the way around the book. Should
Okay, that was
client
one of my
want
questions.
that? Sorry.
Okay.
So yeah, it's an artwork which is quite a wide piece of artwork, which then gets cut down for the ebook, and then when they're ready to do the paperback or the audio, then it will get adjusted and cropped, and I'll do all that. Yeah, so.
Okay.
Jean, do you want to comment?
That's a highly efficient way of working, and we don't do that. We don't do it. I mean, we try it, and then we wind up looking at this landscape, and we cut it back down to the e-cover. But what you have to understand is, once you get your composition set for the cover, getting the rest of it figured out comes pretty naturally, pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. What we're really after is the concept for the cover and making sure that's doing its job. The paperbacks, hardbacks, all that stuff, it's just going to flow out. It's very quick.
And the question was,
Yeah.
do we offer it as a package? Do all of you offer that as a package, and you do all of those things? Right, so,
Okay.
yeah.
So if I have something that's really unique, and I'm planning on doing a series of, say, 8 books, which I'm not, there might be people in the room that are, like maybe a spaceship, for example, that I'm gonna wanna have different angles, different views, different, exploding versions of it, I mean, whatever. But I don't want that spaceship used for any other author. How do you handle that?
You can do that, absolutely, but you're gonna have to pay a 3D artist to create you your own spaceship. So then the price goes way, way up.
All right, so do you do the 3D artist, or do I have to go find a 3D artist?
I can work as a go-between, or we can work something out that's partially illustrated based on a general silhouette that you like. For ships, I do like to do 3D because it gives it that crisp, photorealistic look to it that you can't always get with illustration, in a timely manner. So we can go for something that's 3D, but then we can modify it to look unique for you. And I never recycle. I paint everything, or render in 3D. I never use the same graphics for more than one author.
All right, so Sasha, I talked to you Monday, and you do the 3D work
Yep.
internally, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I guess it's different for different. How about you? Do you do the 3D work, or do you farm that out, Stuart?
I can. It takes a long time, so that adds to the price. I would prefer to. I think it can be more finicky in that respect, because you might have a very specific idea in mind, and so it'd be better going for a professional who does that. Yeah, and I wouldn't reuse the ship on anything else, because that'd just be a very bad thing to do, wouldn't it? So yeah, no. I can do it myself, but I don't.
Okay. So do most of you work with like photo shoots, or do you do painting, art, or is it a mix?
Well, it's definitely a mix. We're a photo studio, but we also do stock, and we also do just photo compositing, and like we were saying earlier, we're just like a full service. We do all of those things in-house, and we're capable of doing all of that. We'll talk a little bit later about AI, but not yet.
That was
Not
the
yet.
next question. So Rebekah, I thought you said you did painting. Is that right?
Mhm.
So your covers are all painted, not
For the most part, yes.
not photographed.
For
Okay.
when we do thriller work, that we use photographic resources just because that's more common for the genre. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we do thrillers, we tend to use photo resources
Okay, that makes sense.
because we want to do what's appropriate for the genre. But most of what we do is illustrated.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just clarify one thing about our process. We do something called photo bashing. So we're taking, hundreds of stock images to actually create an image, and then we will do a lot of digital painting over it. So, Rebekah, when you say you're doing painting, are you doing traditional painting, or are you doing photo bashing with painting on it?
Sometimes, well, it's all digital. It's all digital painting. Sometimes the painting is from scratch. There's nothing underneath. Sometimes we'll photo bash,
Okay.
and sometimes we'll use rendered 3D under instead of
Very cool.
photography. It's just whatever is appropriate for the concept and for the genre.
Yeah, I just thought it would help to clarify that so you understand. There are traditional illustrators out there. 25 years ago, it was very, very common, but with Photoshop and all the stock resources, a lot of digital artists are actually using a photo bashing technique and then using brushes and so forth to embellish it further, customize it further.
Do any of you use Midjourney to do things like customize a costume or something?
We're going into that.
We're gonna wait on that. We're gonna
I just-
answer that in a few.
All right, thanks.
I'll just paint whatever you need. So whatever it is.
Andrew, do you want to add to anything that he was saying or asking? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I do basically all that as well.
Right.
I mean, I worked as a freelance illustrator for a long time, painting in Photoshop. But the thing is, it depends on the book, and it depends what people want. So if someone is, doing a cover which, the genre really expects illustration, then that is what you're best doing.
Right.
If it expects a 3D spaceship, and you want something custom, then, that's a different process, and it just depends what works,
Right.
For that cover.
I agree with that. It's really the genre and what you've discussed with your cover designer and what you want out of it. So you have to really, like we were saying in the beginning, is you have to have a really open discussion about what you're looking for, and you're developing a relationship with your cover designer. Some people actually don't work that way. Some people just buy the covers that are like pre-made cover.
Pre-made.
What is that?
Pre-made.
Yeah, pre-made. And I don't really think that you get a lot of customization from that. That's just like you buy it, that's it, you put some type on it, and you go from there. But I don't think that any of us work in that. You do. Sorry, pardon me. Rebekah does. That's great. That's so tough. Oh, talk, sure. Yes, if you want.
I do make pre-mades. It's
Oh,
just
cool.
I create a cover that
Yeah.
I felt like making, and
Yeah,
I put it
cool.
on my website. And if an author thinks it fits their project, then that's wonderful for both of us. And it's just a more cost-effective way for someone to get an illustrated cover because it kind of cuts out what's the most time-consuming thing, which is the back and forth and the revision. The drawback, of course, and for a lot of people, that's where their budget goes. They don't have a custom budget, and I think they should still be able to get good covers, but the customization, the back and forth, that is the drawback, is you don't have that same feedback flow with your designer.
Do you ever, if someone were to ask you, like, I'm going to purchase your your pre-made cover, do you do any customization on those, or do you just say, this is it, this is what you're getting?
Generally speaking, if someone says, she's blonde, can she be brunette? That is very simple for me to change. And in most circumstances, depending on how the layers in the painting are, I will just do it. If someone was like, you know what, I really need his helmet to look different, I'll say, Well, my hourly rate is 65, so that'll take me about an hour and a half. Does that work for you? And they can decide whether or not that's something they want to do.
That's nice. That's nice. Next question?
If you're a new author, how much would you expect to pay to get a decent quality cover? Because there's a lot of people on Fiverr, isn't there, offering covers at very small amounts. So how do you know you're getting a top quality one and not one that's just been, scraped together from dodgy graphics?
Bum, 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 bum. You get what you pay for. Sorry. Andrew, I saw you lean forward pretty quickly. He was like, ooh.
So how much does it cost? Or
How much should, what's a good budget to start at for a first-time author?
Really hard question. Well, it depends. I mean, we all work in different ways. Some artists will have a flat fee, and then maybe an extra amount for revisions. Some of us work, on an hourly rate or a mix of the two. But for a custom cover, let's say like a single character, kind of photo bashed kind of cover, you're in the hundreds. Definitely, and it can vary from anywhere from a few hundred up to kind of 500 and more. If you're looking at illustration, it's a lot more, usually 500 plus. It just depends on what your cover is going to be.
Just to answer the other part of the question, it's reputation. So how do you know a designer's a good designer? Well, it can be really difficult on places like Fiverr and places like that. But you need to be able to look at their portfolio and the authors they've worked with, and look at their websites and that kind of thing. And you will know quality when you see it, and you'll know who they've worked with. And also, asking around in author communities is a fantastic place to start.
Please.
I think in general, when you're trying to avoid being scammed, and this goes for more than just covers, is look for someone who has invested in their business. Because anybody who's trying to take advantage of authors is going to be the sort of thing where they'll take your money and then they'll close up shop and they'll pop up under another name. If someone's been around a long time, they have a website, they've put effort into growing that business and developing their reputation, they have a lot more to lose by treating you badly. So look for someone who's invested in their business.
There are other ways as well. I mean, if someone's got a portfolio, you might be able to actually reach out to, you can see a cover, the author name will be on there. So you can actually reach out to that author and say, I really like this cover designer. Is he good? Is he all right? There's other ways, so just be careful.
You came to 20Books, and this is about networking, and now is a great opportunity for you to look at what other new authors in your genre and ask them who they used, if they recommend that cover designer. But usually it's anywhere from, I hate to say this, but maybe at $250. I would say like at the low end $250, and that would be probably pretty basic, right? So that'd be safe to say. Jean is sweating and shaking right now. He's like,
I back that up.
Yeah. But definitely, again, about communication, talking to your genre, your community.
Two quick questions.
Sure.
First of all, you guys are amazing designers. Thank you guys for coming here. I've seen cover art that all of you have done, and it's actually jaw-dropping, so thank you very much. Question number one, there are a bunch of 20Books people that are going to be rapid releasing. And in many cases, they might not be coming to you for one, but maybe 3 covers. Do you guys offer package discounts and that kind of thing toward that end? And the second thing is, what is I'd love to hear what each of your lead time is currently right now. How far in advance would you need a person to make that initial contact before they would be getting their cover? Thank you.
That's a great question. Thank you. Thank you for asking that.
Answer the first one, no. I don't offer packages for a series. That's just how I work, and my lead time is about 3-4 months.
I don't advertise that, but if you ask me, I might. It just depends on various other factors, where my workflow is right now. But I know that authors hate to hear this, but it never hurts to ask. It never hurts to ask. I'm going to ask politely, obviously, but it never hurts to ask. And as far as the lead time goes, usually I'm booked a couple months out. I'm not booked a couple months out at the moment. But usually it's a couple months just to start the project, and it's about 4 to 6 weeks to complete the project.
Andrew?
Yeah, no, I generally don't offer bulk discounts, but again, it doesn't hurt to ask. You never know.
Right.
And as far as I'm not massively booked out at the moment, but it depends. You know, I'm an author as well, so I have to balance the two.
Yeah.
So.
Go ahead.
I don't think I get to price anything anymore at the company. Yeah, I think that responsibility is taken away from me. But
well, every cover is a new cover. You know, every cover is a new cover. But like they said, it doesn't hurt to ask. If you're looking at like 10, 15 books, yeah, we'll talk about it.
I mean, most of the projects that we take in are pretty big in scope. So we're kind of set up for the series concepts, and so when we price it out, it's not usually about anything other than what are your goals, like we've all mentioned, and how do we achieve that effectively. And this, knowing what your scope is, the number of books is critical to us. We like to know as much as we can.
Right. And usually it's about 2 months. I think we're probably about 2 months right now.
Yeah, we're going to tell you 2 weeks, but probably deliver in 2 months. So.
That's not true. Because you're going to talk to me first. I'm going to say, we're going to start talking. It just depends on if you're getting a photo shoot. That does take longer. If we're doing a custom shoot, we have to go to the modeling agency. You choose your model. We get down to the costumes. You choose your costumes. And then we book the studio, which is our photo studio in Manhattan. We set the date. You get your photo shoot done. And then we would get your cover done from that, probably about 2 weeks. So that's like 2 weeks out. But if you're using our stock or other stock, it's usually takes about two weeks, something like that, about 2 weeks.
So I wanted to ask, like, for people who know practically nothing, right? Like, how do you find out about your IP? I kind of think one of the questions earlier was like, she wanted to make sure that the base images the artist was using was not going to get her sued later because they ripped it off from somewhere. So like, how do you kind of know that whatever you're getting, that you don't have any problems? I know you guys give everything over and that we own it and whatever, but not everybody knows and not everybody works the same way. So what should authors expect as the finished product and all the rights that they get? I think that's the main thing. And then also, like, do you guys have contracts that everyone signs with all those details or whatever?
That's another good question.
We used to have contracts, and that's a good question. In our invoices, basically, we still have the rights, contracts, and usage in there, and we talk about that very carefully. And one of the reasons why we do a lot of custom work is because we think that's the safest way to go. You should, and it insures you. It's your property. Any original artwork that we create, we generally consider it a shared property, but you have all of the rights and licensing to go ahead and market your company as long as it's you. They're not transferable. And as long as it's for the marketing of your products as an author, you have all the right and to do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, it's everyone works in a different way. I mean, I personally work in a way which is known as work for hire, which means that when the project's done, you get the copyright. I keep the rights to advertise with it. So in terms of my business, so it goes on my website, so I can use it. But it's your image, and I basically grant you the copyright that way. Not everyone works like that. Some people keep the copyright and grant you a license, and then you'd have to go back to them if you want to do something outside of that license and then pay them more. So it depends on the artist. Everyone works in slightly different ways, and you've just got to be happy with how that artist works. So.
And as a new author, and if you're going to be working with a cover designer, ask that. That should be like, if you have your notepad here, write that down, because that is a question you may forget to ask, but that's a really important question. You should know the answer to that for sure.
Hi,
Next
my
question.
company is all digital, so we only deal with thumbnails. Is that a difference in lead time and delivery time, or is it roughly the same?
So, want me to take this? Anybody want to take this? So when you say all thumbnails, is that because, where are you showing the work?
On our app.
On your app. Well, you know, as a property owner, you would have to ask yourself, what's the broadest use I might want of this art if I'm going to create it? I mean, as digital artists, we could create it at 72 DPI, 152 DPI. It would just actually save us file size, and it doesn't really go any faster. As we're working, you don't really notice the difference. It's just a matter of how large you're going to be able to blow this up. Now, if you went to go print this image, you know, keep in mind, you know, printers work at 300 DPI. So you can't necessarily blow that up. You can't be assured of it. I mean, you probably would do okay, but it really, you just have to be careful of, that's one application. What are all the possible applications you might have?
Sure, and I guess my second question about scalability, it might be directed to individual people, is if I had to order 20 to 30 thumbnails a month, how would you be able to scale to that, or is that not something that would be possible?
Oh, now we're talking discounts.
I don't do discounts. I think going back to your first question very briefly, if it's a case of that you're looking for something simple, so you think that maybe we'd be able to work on them sooner because maybe it's just typography and that kind of thing, and it's not image based. For me, it's still the same process. You know, I book up, so I don't just slip people in. And the second question, could you remind me?
It was about scaling to like 20 to 30 images a month.
If once again they were simple, like with typography and it was just colors and it's just a case of you're just changing something that is almost exactly the same, then absolutely. If you're looking for 30
Completely
absolutely
different.
unique covers, no.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My inclination is to say that the process would be, the artistic process is going to be the same regardless of the size of the artwork. And if you were looking, but it depends though, because we haven't discussed your specific needs. So you'd have to discuss with a designer. And as far as getting a designer to provide you with 20 or 30 pieces of artwork per month, you're probably going to have to find a designer that you can enter into an ongoing relationship with, that because that's going to eliminate a lot of their other abilities to work, if that makes sense.
I apologize for being so uninformed, but when you're talking about illustrations, are you talking about something like Stephen King's Holly versus the photo bash, which is a phrase I'm not familiar with? Is that what you're talking about?
You have to bring that show us closer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Have you not seen that?
Yeah.
Stephen King's latest bestseller?
None of us are spring chickens anymore.
So that's an illustration, right?
I don't think that is. To be perfectly honest, it's very, very difficult, especially if you're not an artist, to tell how something was created. But when you're illustrating, you can use a variety of different techniques. If you want it to look like an oil painting, we can make it look like an oil painting. If you want it to look like you're not sure whether it's a photo or not, we can make it look like you're not sure it's a photo or not. You know what I'm saying?
I think maybe he doesn't understand what the photo bashing is. Is that where you're using multiple layers stacked on top of each other? Is that
Photo bashing is taking, for instance, a stock photo of a man and then changing the head from another photo. So you cut his head off in Photoshop and put another head on, and then you maybe take, you know, a street background and you bring that in behind him, maybe create a shadow underneath, take the sky out, put a more dramatic sky in. So you're mixing lots of photos together. That's photo bashing.
This is an online question. Someone was asking if you were provided a photo by that author that author took, would that be something that you could work with?
Yes.
Mostly yes. It depends on it depends on the quality of the photo, definitely. Yeah.
Sorry, it also depends what the photo is.
Oh.
And what it's of, and,
Yeah.
and if there are certain people in it, and that might not have had permission to have their photograph taken.
Yeah. Like, is it like of a sky, picture of a person, picture of someone's tush? Like, I don't know.
So this is a more expectation question, because I'm hearing these low bids of $250, $500, and I'm like going, you guys can't do that and make a living doing that. Because I saw your booth, you have models, you're doing all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very scalable thing. So I just think people need to understand it's not the India thing for $250 or something like that you're getting done.
Thank you for bringing this up.
I mean, it's just
Yes.
Because
Yes.
this, I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
yes, the price it's way above $250.
Yeah.
On average, I think we mentioned this earlier. I mean, we could talk about more accurately what is your average price range? Anybody comfortable talking about that? Well, why don't we talk about that, because they should know it, right? Go ahead, start off, Stuart.
So the last couple of years, I put my prices up to a standard of £800. That is for an ebook and a paperback. It's a bit less if it's just an ebook. It depends on the amount of work. If you want illustration, unique illustration, that's an additional fee, but that's bespoke because it depends on what kind of illustration you want. Videography, that kind of thing, that's bespoke as well. But that's my price range. I think when you're starting out, you can be much lower, but it's not easy. There's a huge amount of work involved. You have to buy the images, you have to do all sorts of different things, and you could be working on something for a couple of months. So you really have to consider that you might even cancel that project after a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
So I might get 50%. So you have to consider all of those things. So yeah, I'm probably at the higher range of that kind of thing, but yeah, I think we probably
So
all.
what's your fee in US dollars?
I have no idea.
Anybody have a calculator?
Just under 1,000, yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's okay.
And when you say a paperback, you mean the full wrap for the paperback,
Mhm.
and then everybody will be including the whole cover of type and everything, right? Finished.
My range in general, just for the illustrated, and this covers everything: paperback, ebook, audiobook, whatever it is that you have that you want to do with the artwork. Is the range is about 16 to 22. So that's where the range is. As far as like the 250, I know that sounds low, and I think it's because that's the rate at which I would not go below that for custom work and still feel comfortable that I'm getting something legitimate and that I'm not being taken for a ride. When I was first starting out as an illustrator, I did some $250 projects, and you may be able to find a brand new illustrator who's willing to do work at that level. It wasn't my full-time job yet. My skill was nowhere near where it is now, so you're gonna have to moderate your expectations there. But for the 250, that's not an average. That's what I would not go below.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, similar really. Again, I'm in pounds.
Yeah.
But I mean, a fairly simple cover is £400 or so, and it can go up to well over 1,000, 1,500. It depends. If you're asking me to do a photo shoot and book models,
That's right.
Then you're talking a lot more money, because that is a massive amount of work.
That's right. And do you do that in a two-part? Do you have so if you're coming in and you're asking for a photo shoot, you charge them photo shoot, model fee, that time, and then the cover is a separate fee?
Yes.
Right.
It's broken down, and
right.
also, so I'll have my fee,
Mm-hmm.
and then, I mean, obviously if I'm hiring a studio, then there's costs involved, and then there'll be the model's costs and the makeup artist costs, and if we're buying props and costumes, and so it goes up and up and up and up. It just depends how custom you want it.
Right.
And to go back to something someone else was talking about, I mean, I have done covers with custom spaceships, and a 3D artist, a professional 3D artist, to create a high quality spaceship that is unique to you, you own the copyright on, that is really expensive.
Yep.
Because they do not come cheap.
Nope, they do not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's all, it is, it's a time issue. I mean, we work really hard on this stuff, and that's just the image, and then you have the typography and the design, and that doesn't even count the production end of it. So, in our studio, because of the indies, we do have various tier pricing.
But
Can I
if
talk
you're
about
using,
that?
if you're using from the stock site, it starts
Yeah.
at about 800.
Yeah, so and it goes, further north. If it's, especially if you're working with major trade publishers, they'll have different budgets. So our average fees range from $900 to $1,500.
Real quickly, what's something an author who writes in a more niche genre can do to set you up for success? Like, I write in horror, and sometimes my cover designer may not have the most experience with that.
Okay. Wait, ask that question one more. Just ask that question again.
I write in horror, which is
Uh-huh.
a little more of a niche genre than,
Yep.
say, crime or mystery or fantasy. What's something I could do to set my cover designer up for success?
Show your cover designer other covers that you like, right? So in that genre, if you're working with a new cover designer, show them what you're looking for so that you can get a visual, so your cover designer can get a visual of what it is that you're looking for. Anybody want to? Yeah.
100%. It's comparative covers, so authors that are doing really well in your area, that's what you should be looking at.
Yeah, you should go and go onto a site like Amazon and put top 10 books that are selling right now, immediately right now. That's your genre. Yeah.
Good question.
Any other questions? Please come forward. Oh yeah. Oh my God. 25 seconds. Go for it.
So what if, in my genre, so it's urban fantasy, the covers tend to be very fantastical and kind of, the successful ones, but I don't like that.
Okay.
Would you say, stick with the success one or pick a bit more subdued, which is my preference? So, I mean, I don't really see that many that I really like because they're all like these.
Yeah, yeah.
The cover's not for you. It's for the person who's
Right.
spending their money.
That's right. You want them to buy the cover.
You want them to buy
the cover.
If you are
Buy
looking
the
for,
book.
if you're looking for artwork for your living room wall, what you
Okay,
like
got it.
is so relevant.
Right.
But on the cover, it's what they want to buy.
That's right.
All right, thank you. I
you.
needed to hear that. Thanks.
Yes, definitely. You judge a book by its cover. Okay, that phrase is "you don't judge a book by its cover" is not for you. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. If you have any other questions, grab us outside. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.